Happy Friday, everyone. Haven't said those words in a very long time, but so glad I just did because it means only one thing. EFL footy is back, and I am so excited, and as are two men in the studio, because we are about to go through all the games in round one across the Eastern Football League, the first round of the 2013 season. I'm Ben Waterworth, and joining me, as he did all through last year, maybe a couple of times throughout 2013, I'm sure we'll hear his voice a number of times, Peter Baird.
Yeah, good afternoon to you, Ben, as well. Football's back, as you said, and it all kicks off under lights tonight at Bayswater Oval. What a fantastic season opener that's going to be.
We'll talk about that game very, very shortly. I know you've got some very interesting points about that game, but it's time to welcome our other person here on a Friday afternoon here at EFL House, making his Friday preview debut. He is the wise man of the EFL media team, Ray Baird.
Good afternoon, Benny, and boy, the adrenaline has started to run, only a few hours away from game day.
Righto, Frosty, let's start off with this Friday night game. Bayswater taking on Mulgrave. The first game under lights for points at Bayswater Oval. A big season opener it's going to be. Bayswater taking on Mulgrave. All the hype will stop and action will kick off at 7:30.
It's going to be a huge game. It's going to be a huge crowd. The event and stage is set for a fantastic game of football. And it's really going to set the scene as to where two teams may stand in this Division 2 competition. Bayswater, they made finals last year, but they were less than impressive as what they have been over the past couple of years. They were probably a class below teams like Montrose and Muralbark and Roval last year. They filled that last spot in the top four, but they went out in the first week of the finals. They've got a point to prove, and probably a bigger point to prove considering some of the departures we've seen from Bayswater Oval in the pre-season. Guys like Brent Jane, Ben Backer, David Burmeister have all headed down to Ringwood. So Bayswater have had to look to try and recruit. They've picked up a very good player, though, Darren Murphy from the Eastern Lions.
Yes.
His pace is going to be very important to this Bayswater side in the wide open spaces of Bayswater Oval, particularly in this game under lights as a season opener. He's going to want to make an impact with his new club right off the bat. You look at Mulgrave, though. They started the year very, very slowly last year. They came home with a wet sail. They strung together 4 wins very late in the year. Ryan James started to get his team to click. Unfortunately for them, though, one of the key players they had last year in Tim Knowles has departed the scene. So really, they're going to be looking for someone else to step up and fill that void. Ben Gilling and Sebastian Henderson have returned to the Mulgrave this year. They're going to add a little bit. They're former Mulgrave boys that have been playing their footy elsewhere. So it's going to be a bit of an interesting setup, the way they structure up in this game. I reckon Bayswater, though, they've got the experience of having played Lilydale under lights in a practice game out there a few weeks ago. They took it up to the Dales. They kicked the first 3 goals of the practice match. They kicked the last 3. Unfortunately for them, though, Lilydale kicked 9 in a row in the middle and they went down by 3 goals. But I think Bayswater are going to try and move the ball very quickly. They're going to try and look to fast break from a contest. They've got the best player in Division 2 in Joel Galvin, the Kenneth Wright medalist. He's going to be looking to really lead this team by example. Bayswater for mine to kick off the season with a win under lights at Bayswater Oval.
And of course, don't forget, this game will be broadcast live on EFL Game Day from 6:30pm on 98.1 Radio Eastern and streaming through efl.org.au. So make sure you tune in. Bayswater for mine, Frosty. They'll enjoy being under lights. Righto, Raymondo, let's have a look at Division 4 for season 2013. And we're going to start with a game that has easily been the biggest talking point in Division 4 in round 1. Of course, it is Park Orchards taking on Surrey Park. Park Orchards, an incredibly deep list from seniors to reserves to under-19s. But Surrey Park, I know you saw them last week in a practice game, Ray. All guns blazing, apparently, at the moment, the Panthers.
Look, as you said, this game has already received huge publicity, and it's going to be a ripper. I think it's going to go down to the wire. Look, Peter Nicholson, he's got a very young side. They were up and running last year. They looked very good. They took a lot of sides by surprise. But look, they haven't really recruited a lot, but they haven't lost anybody off their list. That's the main thing with them. And look, they played some really exciting football last year, and I think a big plus for them is that this game's played out at Domini Reserve. That's a fortress for them out there. They've already proved that last season. And they come up against Surrey Park. Now, there's been a lot of hype around Surrey Park. Look, they've gone out. They've recruited the type of players that they've wanted. And, look, they're playing, from what I saw last week, they're playing a pretty good sort of football. Look, they've got structures that they build on now. They're just not, all in chasing the ball like a lot of Division 4 clubs do. And Andrew Toop, he's done a wonderful job with them out there. But, look, as I said, this game, it's going to go down to the wire. There's no doubt about it. And I'm going to pick Surrey Park. I think that, from what I saw last week, I saw enough.
63 consecutive losses, I think it's been, or somewhere around those lines. Can they break the drought? I don't think they can, actually. Park Orchards for mine on the weekend, but should be close. Kilsyth taking on Canterbury. Kilsyth have raised a few eyebrows over the pre-season, Frosty, mainly because of their recruiting. They've picked up one big one in Jay Sherlock. They come up against the Canterbury side under new coach Angela Mana. They'll certainly have their work cut out, but they've got a very good, experienced coach up their sleeve.
They have Angela Mana. He will make a difference to Canterbury this year. He's gone out and he's picked up a couple of players. Tom Mason joins the Cobras from Tarrawingi, and Chris Toth comes across from Roval. He really needs to address the culture of the Canterbury Football Club for mine, though. They're a club that really hasn't developed the way they possibly should have since coming across to the Eastern Football League. They've got plenty of potential. They've never delivered on that potential, though. Kilsyth, on the other hand, coached by a very good coach in Simon Caldwell, a very, very young team. They've probably got the best ruckman in the competition in Hamish Hosking, and he's going to be a real key in this game. He had guys like Jay Sherlock into the mix in the forward line. The Cougars are going to be a very difficult team to play against this year. They're going to be better for the run last year. I reckon they can get the job done against Canterbury, and I reckon they can do it in style. I reckon they'll win by more than 10 goals, Ben.
I agree with you, Frosty. Kilsyth raised plenty of eyebrows over the pre-season. I think they'll get off to a good start against the Cobras. Ray, Forest Hill taking on South Belgrave. A huge year for South Belgrave. Were bridesmaids last year. Couldn't get over the line against the Basin. No more Bears in Division 4, so the Saints will look to try and get their 2013 campaign off to the best possible start against the Forest Hill side, who's recruited pretty heavily over the pre-season.
Yeah, look, Brett Shoulders, he's gone out and he's got a lot of players into their list now, and they've only lost a couple from last year, but they come up against South Belgrave. Now, South Belgrave, they're under a new coach. Dean Bennell's been promoted as coach with the departure of Nick Cox. But look, one big out for South Belgrave is Anthony Willenberg. He's gone to the Glen Waverley Hawks. He's going to be a loss for them. But the big thing for South Belgrave also is that the big boy down forward,
Lucas Appleby.
He's
going around again.
He's going around again.
Yes.
So look, that's a huge plus for them. There was talk that he was going to finish up, but it's amazing when the liniment comes out and the smell gets around, they get back into it, don't they? But look, Forest Hill, they finished 6th last year. Look, they're out to prove a point that they can play finals. And look, I think they're going to do very well. But look, unfortunately, not in this game. I just think that South Belgrave's going to have too much firepower for them.
I think the Zebras will improve again this year, Ray, but I think against South Belgrave, it's a tough start to their 2013 campaign. The Saints with Odomat, Bacons and Appleby on the same forward line should get the chocolates. A rematch of the 2012 elimination final in Division 4 between Ferntree Gully and Nunawading taking place on Saturday afternoon. Frosty, how do you see this one going? Two teams who've lost some class over the pre-season on the transfer table.
They have. Two clubs that really made that improvement last year to make the finals after not playing there for a few years for Nunawading and a year or so for Ferntree Gully. Bernie Ryan's still the coach of the Ferntree Gully Eagles. He's changed his game plan this little bit. He's gone on record as saying he wants to run other teams off their legs, and I can understand why. Ferntree Gully are going to be very young, they're going to be very small, and they're going to be very quick. So I understand why Bernie's going down that path, and I think it might pay dividends against Frank Salonitri's Nunawading. Last year, Nunawading finished 5th. They won 10 and lost 6, the same record as Ferntree Gully. But come the finals time, Ferntree Gully showed they were a much better team in the way they were able to move the ball. I think we might see a little bit more of that this Saturday afternoon. I'm going to be tipping Ferntree Gully at home. I think they can get the job done against Nunawading. I think it'll be close for a half, but I think that pace and leg speed that Ferntree Gully might show will be enough to run the Lions off their legs in the second half.
Looking forward to seeing how Sam McCallum, the big goal kicker for Nunawading, goes this year, but I agree with you, Frosty. On that wide open spaces there of Wallichu Reserve there in Ferntree Gully, I think the Eagles will get their season 2013 campaign off to the best start. And the final game in Division 4 is, of course, the Brett Hartman Shield. It's Sylvan taking on Coldstream on a Sunday afternoon. Looking forward to getting out and seeing this one, Ray. I know you certainly are looking forward to going out and seeing these two local rivals go at it. Of course, Coldstream coming down from Division 3 into Division 4.
You could almost call it the country local derby, couldn't you, both those teams? They're probably two of the furthest teams out, but they're probably two of the closest teams together. But look, this game's going to be very good. Coldstream, I think they're going to relish being down in a division. They've had 10 years up in Division 3. Matty Price is probably, in a little bit of a way glad that they're down there, and let's hope that they can get some wins on the board and get a few people back watching football at Coldstream, even though Frosty said it's the coldest place on earth.
Arctic Park.
That's right, but they're playing Sylvan. Now, Sylvan, look, Brett Goodlett's a very good coach. He's going to get better this year from what he did last year, having the experience playing in the finals. But then they've recruited very well. They've recruited Grant Ewing and Tyson McKenzie, Brett Francis, all from the Yarra Valley. They're old Sylvan boys who have come back to play with the club again because they want to play in the best competition in the local area. And look, they're going to do really well. But look, they come up against Coldstream, who have also recruited well. They've picked up Liam Dowdy from Montrose, Danny Pullen from Kilsyth, and the big Baljar Singh from the Essendon District Football League, 100-goal player everywhere he goes. Look, he's going to be huge, the big man down there, and he likes to play up to the crowd too, I believe. So look, this game's going to go right down to the wire. And look, the only reason I'm going to pick Sylvan in this game, mainly because it's played at Sylvan, and Coldstream might take just a game or two to get back used to playing Division 4 football.
Yep, sounds absolutely right, Ray, that Coldstream might take a little bit of time to adjust. But it should be a big crowd out there. If you're not doing anything on Sunday, make sure you hit the Sylvan Recreation Reserve. Sylvan versus Coldstream. Let's move on to Division 3 Frosty. In the first game we're going to have a look at is the Glen Waverley Hawks taking on Wantirna South. These two teams also met in round 1 this time last year. The only difference was Glen Waverley Hawks coming up from Division 4 and Wantirna South from Division 2. Now both of these teams have had 12 months in Division 3. Interesting to see how they go 1 year on.
Yeah, they were both the new kids on the block last year in Division 3, and I think they're two clubs that might be heading in different directions. Glen Waverley Hawks made a huge impact in Division 3 last year. Coming up from Division 4 without winning a flag, they made it all the way through to the grand final. Unfortunately for them, though, they went down on that last day by the biggest margin we've ever seen in a division in any Eastern Football League grand final. That's still hurting that Glen Waverley Hawks football club, and I'm not sure whether they're going to have the goods to recover. Wantirna South, though, they got a real shot in the behind coming down from Division 2 into Division 3. They expected to play finals. They were in the mix right up until the final round. Unfortunately for them, they fell short at the last hurdle, and they're still hurting on that. I think they're going to be building towards making a real assault on this Division 3 flag this year. I'm going to be tipping Wantirna South in a bit of an upset. This is the first game out at Central Reserve, the new home of the Glen Waverley Hawks. A fantastic facility they've got out there now, but I think Wantirna South will have their measure out there. The Glen Waverley Hawks have picked up Luke Scanlon, who'll be a fantastic player in and under the packs, but I reckon the experience of the Wantirna South guys will have what it takes, and Matt Clark's boys will salute Julie. They'll get their season off for a win with a win against the Hawks in round 1.
I'm glad you mentioned that, Frosty. Should be a huge crowd out there at Central Reserve there on Springvale Road. The Hawks moving from Capital to Central, but I agree with you. Wantirna South will be a team to watch in 2013. Boronia versus Ringwood, the game of the day for EFL Game Day on 98.1 Radio Eastern FM, and of course streaming on efl.org.au from 1pm all the way through to 6pm. This is going to be an absolute cracker. Some say a Division 3 grand final preview.
Look, we've got two clubs here, both with new coaches for this year. Boronia with Mark Hardy, and I'll just say any team that's coached by Mark Hardy is going to be a better side than what they were without him. And Ringwood, we have a new coach there in Brett Jane, come across from Bayswater with 3 or 4 other players as well. But look, he's taken over from Josh Toohey, he's continuing playing, isn't he, Josh? So look, this is going to be a ripper of a game. Look, as you said, maybe 2 grand finalists for 2013. But look, you look at Boronia's in. They've got Seb Colacates, is it?
Colacates?
Yeah, the reserves best and fairest winner in Division 2 last year. And Dean Grice, he's back to the club. Look, probably a new recruit after the few games he played towards the end of the year. And they've also a very good pickup. They picked up a goal kicker in Mark Williams from Scoresby. So look, on form, Boronia, they're going to look pretty good. But then we look at Ringwood's side. As I said, Brent James come across as coach. Along with him come Ben Backer, David Burmeister, and also they've picked up Alistair Jackson from the Southern Football League. And look, there's some great recruits there that they've picked up from Bayswater. I think they're going to add a little bit of spark around the forward line for Ringwood this year. And look, this game's going to go down to the wire. There's no doubt about it. There's going to be a huge crowd there. The radio game, and look, I'm going to pick Ringwood to win this in a thriller.
Yeah, I'm going to pick Ringwood as well. I've got a funny feeling about the Redbacks in 2013. They're a very complete side from backline to forward line. Watch out for the Redbacks. Frosty, Heathmont taking on Mitcham. We all know about the outs for Heathmont over the pre-season, losing a couple of big forwards, and we all know about the big ins for Mitcham coming into this game as well.
You've stolen my thunder there a little bit, Benny Waterworth.
Sorry, mate.
I was going to talk about one team's ins against the other team's outs and how these two teams might be strangers passing in the night as they move through the season. Mitcham, they took a real huge step forward last year, made the finals, went down in that heartbreaking loss in that drawn elimination final against Ringwood in extra time. They've picked up 2 key forwards, which is a deficiency they had last year. Johnny Pignataro and Steve Pym, an old Mitcham boy, a really welcome homecoming for Steve Pym, come back to join the Tigers. They're going to be a team to be reckoned with this year. Scott Homewood showed how he was able to get the team up and about and really focused on making that next step and really becoming a powerhouse again. Added to that, Rob Petrarca, their vice-captain Julian's brother, and I reckon Mitcham have got what it takes to match it with the best in Division 3 this year. Heathmont, on the other hand, they've lost their spine. Darren Sheen, their full forward, who we've seen take the AFL by storm over the last few years, has departed. Lee Odermatt, their centre-half forward's gone. Kieran O'Driscoll, their full backs, left the club as well. And Steve Shaw, their captain's hung up the boots. I reckon it's going to be a hard, tough year for the Jets, and I reckon it's going to start with a big loss at the hands of the Mitcham Tigers, who will be looking to really make an impact early on in the year to try and set their year up for an assault on the finals. Tigers for mine in this one.
Tigers for mine as well. They look good, Frosty. Some really, really good recruits there. I think the Tigers will get their campaign off to a great start. Ray, fascinating matchup on Saturday afternoon between the Whitehorse Pioneers and the Basin. The Pioneers back at Springfield Park, the Basin back in Division 3.
Yeah, look, this is going to be huge for Whitehorse Pioneers back on Springfield Park there. Tony Frataka, he got to improve this side this year. They finished in 11th position last year, but he's got down in his comments that, they're going to win more games than they did last year, and that's very positive. Look, we look at the Basin, though. They've come up from Division 4. They whitewashed Division 4 last year. They went through undefeated the whole season, but they've come up a grade. It's going to be a lot harder for them, and you look at the players that they've lost. They lost Michael Callanham and Ben Darn, who've gone to Coldstream, Daniel Dembrabber, who's retired, and Todd Power's retired. I mean, Dembrabber and Power, they were the lifeline of the Basin last year. They just repelled everything that came down forward and set up forward thrust from the half-back line, those two players, and they're going to be a huge loss. But look, they've coached very well, the Basin, by Michael Glassbarrow. I think that he's one of the best coaches going around. He's a very smart tactician. And look, Whitehorse Pioneers, as I said, back on their home ground. They haven't lost anybody off their list from last year. That's a big bonus for them. And look, we hope that they do well on that home ground. But look, I'm going to pick the Basin just to get over the line in a close one.
Yeah, it should be a really close one. Just got a funny feeling about the Pioneers. I think they'll be really up and about for this game. Went out and saw the facilities last Saturday, and they played a practice match, and it looks in pristine condition. I don't know. Got a feeling about the Pioneers. Should get a first-up win. The Battle of the Manningham Cup takes place tomorrow, Frosty, with Doncaster taking on Templestowe. The Sharks back in Division 3 after a year in Division 2. Templestowe will be looking to improve on last year.
They will, and the Sharks, they've made a bit of a statement in the off-season. They don't want to be in Division 3 for very long. They've gone out, they've opened up the purse strings down there at JJ Tully Drive, at Shram's Reserve there. They've said, we want to get back to Division 2, and they've called in the big boys to do it. Nathan Thompson's joined the Sharks this year, as has Aaron Fiora coming across from East Ringwood. Templestowe, they haven't sit idle in the off-season either. Navinda Singh and Simon Grasser have come across from the Glen Waverley Hawks. This is going to be a cracking game, and I reckon Templestowe, having missed the finals last year, they were bleeding at that. They were in the finals up until three-quarter time in the final round last year. Only Mitcham running over the top of them in that final quarter forced them to sit on the sidelines and watch the September action from the grandstand. They're going to be out there to try and take a very big scalp early in the year, and there's probably no bigger scalp at the moment going around than Doncaster, looking to force their way back into Division 2 and make a statement early in the year in Division 3. I reckon this one's going to go right down to the wire. Really hard to pick a winner. I've tipped Doncaster to win the flag in Division 3, so I have to stick with the Sharks in round 1.
Sharks and the Dockers will put on a great contest, no doubt about that. Local rivals, and I agree with you. The Sharks are one of the teams to beat this season. They should get their campaign off to a good start. The final game we're going to have a look at in Division 3 for round 1 is Chirnside Park and Warrandyte. These two teams last year, Ray, played at some quite close encounters, and I think it'll be another close encounter this weekend.
Look, yeah, that was last year, Ben, but we look at Chirnside Park. They're a completely different side to last year, and Frosty says they have to be because they were the most disappointing team in the Eastern Football League, according to Frosty. But Brett Davidson's moved on. They've got a new coach in there, Lees Horsburgh. I believe he's the youngest coach in the Eastern Footy League, and good luck to him. But he's brought with him a lot of players that have joined the club. We don't know much about them at this stage, but and they haven't lost a lot of players either. They've only lost about 3 players off their list. But then we look at Warrandyte. It's going to be a very hard, long year for Warrandyte. They are playing on their home ground this year, but unfortunately the club rooms have been demolished. They're going to be playing out of temporary club rooms. Their list, they haven't really picked up much. Look, I don't think they really expect much themselves, Warrandyte, this year. They're just going to be in there, try and win as many games, play the kids. That's all you've got to do. But look, Chirnside Park, I think they're going to be a bit of a smoky this year. And I think that, if Lees Horsburgh can get a bit of enthusiasm in there and get, those players that he's brought in running and kicking goals, well, I think that in this particular game, Chirnside Park will be too strong.
I only heard positive things about Lee Horsburgh, and I think that'll sort of all come to fruition in round 1. Chirnside Park to get a pretty comfortable victory over the Bloods. Moving on to Division 2, Frosty, and what a big local rival game to kick off Division 2. Croydon taking on Mulgrave. The Blues back at Croydon Oval. They are thrilled to be back there, and Mulgrave will be wanting to improve on last year and go that one step further and possibly make a grand final.
Yeah, Mulgrave, they're going to be a team to really be reckoned with this year in Division 2. They're going to miss the big kid, though, the big Russian Talevsky in the opening rounds of the year. He has headed up north. They're going to need another player to stand up in his absence. New captain Mike Smith there. He's going to be a player that really takes this Division 2 competition by storm this year. A big inclusion for them is former Lilydale captain Chris Murphy, who comes across from Mount Evelyn. And former Victorian Country Football League player Nathan Muratore joins the Mustangs as well. He's going to add a bit of spark to them as well. I reckon Brett Fisher's boys are going to be primed and set to go come round 1, but they come up against a team who really need to try and get that winning feeling back. They're back at their home ground, Croydon Park, Croydon Oval, whatever you'd like to call it. The Blues have come down from Division 1. It's been a long time since they've been out of that top echelon. They're going to really need to try and get a bit of momentum going early in the year. I really think that they can do it if they can get an early win on the board, and that's probably the key for Croydon. I can't see it coming, though, in round 1 against the Mustangs team that really want to go that next step after having played in a preliminary final last year. Muralbark for mine.
The Mustangs prime for a big year in 2013. I think they'll get off to a good start, but Darryl Grant and the Croydon team will certainly be looking forward to being back at Croydon Oval. Upper Ferntree Gully hosting the Waverley Blues tomorrow afternoon out there at Kings Park. Ray, I know you are all over the Waverley Blues, who are now coached by Brett Davidson. Very interesting task. Can they get over the top of Upper Ferntree Gully?
Look, I think they can, Ben. Waverley Blues and Brett Davidson, I think that's the perfect match. I think he's the coach that they need to have. Pete said he's had more clubs than Greg Norman, but the thing is that he keeps getting a job, so he must be a good coach, and I look at it that way. But look, Waverley Blues, I think their forward structure is going to change this year. They're going to have 3 big boys down there on the forward line, Robert Hartfield, Glen Marnie, and the return of Ryan Tilley. He's going to be huge down there, so I think that they're going to kick the ball high and long into their forward line, and you've got the likes of Paul Savage, a class midfielder, delivering the ball to those 3 down there. Look, they're going to be very hard to stop, and I just feel that the overall improvement of of the Waverley Blues, under Brett Davidson, that's going to be a huge factor. But we look at Upper Gully now. Andy Heyman, look, he's come out and he's admitted himself that he doesn't know what to expect this year. They've lost Petraka and Sherlock. They're two big forwards down there, but look, they've still got some good players. Tim Risley in the midfield, he's very hard, good, and he's good disposal. Alec Calder, who was new to the club last year, made the 2012 Team of the Year. Look, they're coming off the half-back line. So look, it's not all doom and gloom for Upper Ferntree Gully. Look, they're going to miss Shannon Graham across the half-back line. I believe he's doing the running this year for Andy Heyman. But look, they had good reserves who made the finals last year, and I think their under-19s weren't too bad. Yep. But look, it's going to be a long year for Upper Gully, and they're going to that transition from under-19s coming up to play senior football. But I think in this particular round, Waverley Blues are going to be too good.
Yeah, I think we'll find out how good the Waverley Blues are. Well, not how good full stop they will be, but just to see how much improvement there has been over the pre-season. I think they'll prove that they're an up-and-coming team and could push that top 4 this year. Blues for mine as well. Frosty, North Ringwood finally make their way up to Division 2, and their first game will be against Doncaster East, who there's been a bit of murmurings about the Lions over the pre-season that they could be the big bolters in 2013.
Yeah, there's been a bit of excitement about the Doncaster East side. Lee Murphy stays on there as captain, and they've got a few handy inclusions. Johnny Blythe returns back to the Lions, one of our favourites on the media team, as does Ash Neville, who's really made a name for himself in Division 2 in the past. He's a great footballer, and big Billy Morrison coming out of the goal square for the Doncaster East side. He's going to be one to watch. But they're coming up against a side that's had time to prepare for Division 2 whilst playing in Division 3 for the last few years. Now, that might sound a bit funny, but I reckon North Ringwood were a second division side playing in Division 3 for the last 2 years. They've been a class above everybody else that haven't been able to get the job done when it's counted the most on that big stage. Brett Moyle, he's prepared for this day. Now's the time of reckoning for the Saints. They've added big Tom Hill off the Western Bulldogs list, a 200-centimetre, 94-kilo player. And John Cooper also comes into the North Ringwood side, filling the hole that Grant Aitkins left with his retirement. I reckon North Ringwood have got what it takes. They might just surprise Donny East in round 1, but I think the Lions are prepared, they're ready for them, and they'll teach them a bit of a lesson as to the standard they need to play in Division 2 to be a successful side. Doncaster East should win this game, and I'm going to tip them.
It's a danger game for the Lions. Frosty out there at Quamby Reserve. They wouldn't have played too many games out there at Quamby Reserve, if ever, but looking forward to seeing how the Lions go. I think they'll be too good, but it should be a close game. Final game in Division 2, Ray sees Montrose, last year's runners-up, taking on Donvale. This is going to be a big year for Montrose. Like North Ringwood before them, Montrose have been bridesmaids for the past couple of years, but they come up against the Donvale side, who I personally rate quite a fair bit, but you'd think Montrose might be too good.
Yeah, look, I think Montrose will be too good, Ben. Look, they're the premiership favourites at the moment. You know, let's make no bones about that. But look, we look at Donvale. There hasn't been a lot of movement in their recruits and all that, but they've picked up Graham Cuff, who was assistant coach at Norwood, and also Duncan Cant's come across, who coached Norwood reserves into the finals last year. And also they've brought along a very good young player in Jake Buckingham. Yes. I believe that he's a very good player. And they've also picked up Max Otten from the VFL. Look, and I believe also they've had the hardest pre-season. The players will be super fit, but the big thing with Donvale is they've got to win early games. They've got to get those crowds back up there to the Donvale Oval, because when they're on fire, there's huge crowds up there. I think, but they rely too much on Jack Purcell as their goal kicker. A big effort from Jack Purcell this year. If he can fire and kick goals, they will certainly be not a bad side. But they come up against Montrose, coached very well last year by Brett Johnson. Look, they're probably the best disposal in the Eastern Football League, second division. They've lost Seb Colocatis from last year, Liam Doherty, but those two players are probably past their best and probably wouldn't be in the best 22 at Montrose this year. But look, the big pickup is they picked up David Bell from East Ringwood, Shane Carey from South Croydon, and the big pickup to me is Brendan Ridoldi, the big ruckman from Blackburn. They've already got the best ruckman in Division 2 in Andrew Haynes. And now they've got another one there in Rinaldi. Look, they're going to get the ball out of all the clearances. And you look at the rest of their side, Billy Schilling, Brett Johnson, Gardo, Rickard, Garthwaite. Look, it just goes on and on. They're just a team that's full of superstars, and they're going to win the premiership.
There you have it, Ray. They're obviously going to win this game as well. Very thorough analysis. I agree with you with all the above there. Montrose to win this game. Time to have a look at the big boys of Division 1 for the first time in 2013. And Frosty, we start off with your newfound favourites, Balland, the 2012 Division 1 premiers, and they start their 2013 campaign against East Ringwood, who not a lot's gone right for the Roos over the pre-season. It'll be a tough game, I think, against the Tigers.
You talk about the big boys of Division 1. There is no bigger boy going around in Division 1 at the moment than the Balland Tigers. They absolutely barnstormed everybody in the finals last year. They defeated all the other 4 finalists on their way to claiming the flag. They haven't been satisfied with that, though. They've gone out and been very, very proactive in their off-season recruiting. Their captain, Rennie Gilchrist, his brother Taylor comes across. The 2 Hogle boys from Scoresby, as Jared Goldsack from Scoresby. They're a real class outfit, and they've been training as hard as any club has in the off-season. I spoke to Daniel Donati about a month ago. He said it actually scared him how fit and ready to work his Balland Tigers came back from their break over Christmas. This is a team that really wants to make it back-to-back premierships. They come up against East Ringwood, though. Any team coached by Bernie Deneen is going to give you an honest effort, and I reckon East Ringwood will do just that. They've lost a few of their really big names, guys like Gary Conyers, Aaron Fiora, Vogels. These guys have probably been some of the marquee players for the Roos over the last few years. Unfortunately for them, they've gone on to greener pastures, and Bernie's had to look from within to develop some of the younger talent. Watch for guys like young Jared Ferguson to come through and make a bit of an impact this year. They're going to be a lot younger. I don't think they've got the class to match it with such a classy outfit as the Balland Tigers. Balland will get off their season defence, be able to unveil that premiership flag out there at Cherry Road with a very, very big win.
SEM Park, I think, will certainly be covered in black and gold right throughout the afternoon, and certainly right up until the final siren, because the Balland should win. Looking forward to the battle of the black and the red on the weekend, Ray, because Knox host Blackburn, two teams who'll be desperate to improve on last year. Some think that Knox might be the team that slips into that top five and really takes it to the Big Four in 2013.
Well, look, Knox, they've had a taste of finals before, though not last year, but the year before. They did play finals, so they know what it's all about. Last year, a little bit disappointing. They went down to 8th, but look, there's been two big outs for Knox. Jared Clark and Ryan Jeffries, they're going to miss those two players, but they've got a huge big in. Andrew Clifford, he played 3 or 4 games for them last year, a big centre-half forward from Box Hill. He's going to fill the hole there that Jeffries and that have left there. But look, Blackburn. Now, Peter Banfield, another very good coach. He was disappointed in last year's effort. They finished 10th. Their ins have outweighed their outs for the this year. But look, I don't know about Blackburn this year, Ben. Look, they haven't been a lot of publicity about them. Look, I really think they're going to struggle in certain games. But look, Knox, because this game's also played at Knox Gardens Reserve, I think that's a huge thing for Knox. Their pre-season form of Knox has been good, and I think Knox is going to win tomorrow.
Blackburn is certainly rebuilding. We know that. We know they lost a lot of players at the end of 2011, and Peter Banfield's certainly all about rebuilding, but I think Knox might be the team. I agree with most pundits out there. They'll be that 5th team in Division 1 this season, and I think they'll be able to get a win on the weekend. Frosty, your second favourite team, no doubt about that, is Noble Park, and they host East Burwood to kick off the 2013 campaign for the respective sides, playing for the Blue Ribbon Shield. East Burwood currently hold it, but I think Noble Park might take it off them.
I think I said last year and went on record as saying you do not tip against Noble Park out at the Pat Wright Senior Oval. That rule is still going to apply in 2013. This game is out there at the home ground of the Bulls, the Bull Ring, as they like to call it, and their courageous, inspirational leader, Craig Anderson's fit and healthy, ready to go after missing most of last year with a shoulder injury.
Scary, very scary.
It's a huge in back for that Noble Park side. I spoke to Mick Fogarty. Beware of the wounded Bulls was the message he gave me to tell all other Division 1 clubs. They're coming again this year, Noble Park. Last year they were ravaged by injuries. They had a season from hell after 2 really good years where they claimed the flag. This year they're going to be trying to claim it once again and challenge teams like Balland. Unfortunately for East Burwood, they're going to come up against that Noble Park side in round 1. East Burwood have lost a couple of significant players, guys like Marcus Carroll, Henshaw, Big Simon Campbell, Big Robbie Campbell, have all departed the East Burwood Rams. Fabian Corelli, a bit of a legend from the Northern Football League, comes over and takes over the helm of the Rams, though. A few players have come in there. They're going to be very young, though. They're in a rebuilding phase, the East Burwood side. I don't think they've got what it takes to match it with Noble Park. The Bulls quite comfortably in a canter out at the Pat Wright Senior Oval.
I agree with you, Frosty. Noble Park should get their 2013 season off to a good start with a victory. Righto, Ray, I know you've been waiting for this moment for the past 40 minutes or so because it's time to have a look at your Hawks. Roval take on Vermont. Their first game in Division 1 since the early 80s. Of course, when they were in Division 1, they went zip and 18 and have never been in Division 1 since. They now have an opportunity to go back into Division 1, but they come up against the might of the Eagles.
Yeah, look, it's been a long time coming for Roval, but look, and for the first game we got 2 mates, Paul Minot and Chris Barlow, coaching against each other. Look, Roval, they're a very young side. They've gone out and they've recruited 2 very good players, Josh Dyson and from the Brisbane AFL side, and also Lucas Gibbons from Scoresby. So those 2 players will help them out. The only 2 they've lost. They've lost Damien Garner, who was their best and fairest winner last year. He's gone down to Frankston, and Luke Scanlon's gone down to Glen Waverley Hawks in Division 3. But look, they come up against Vermont, and what can we say against Vermont? They've picked up probably the best recruit you could ever find in Tom Schneider. Peter Baird's already got him tipped to win the Chandler medal. But and not only that, but Chris Barton returns, Ash Froud returns. Look, that Paul Chadwicks comes across from Scoresby. They've just got stronger and stronger from last year. And look, it's going to be a rude awakening for Roval. They're going to know what Division 1's all about. And I think tomorrow that Vermont's going to win easily.
I think they'll win easy as well. And I think another recruit you forgot to mention there was Justin Van Noonan, Ray, who might have a big day out.
Huge, mate. And this game will be played at the Scoresby Recreation Reserve also, Ben.
Certainly will. And Vermont, I think, have played more games at Scoresby than what Roval has, even though it's a Roval home game. So I think the Eagles will win. All right, Frosty, it's time to preview the club that you've now become a member of. Norwood are taking on Scoresby out there at Mullen Reserve. I know you've signed up as a member of the Norwood Football Club over the past couple of weeks. They're set for a big year under new coach Dennis Knight, but Scoresby will be also have a new coach in Sean Kavanagh, who will play plenty of under-19s from last year, you would think.
I'll be really keen to see if Dennis Knight can adopt a more offensive game plan for the Norsemen this year than what we saw under Kevin Tibaldi last year.
You couldn't help yourself.
I had to have one more parting shot at Big Kev, I'm sorry. The Norsemen, they're a great football club. They've recruited very heavily. They've looked at one of their departing teams from Division 1 to try and bolster their stocks, and they've picked up guys like Brad Callagher, Rhett Jordan, Daniel McConnell, Rudy Falovic, all from Croydon, have come across to join the Norsemen. Yes. They're going to take a lot of stopping this year. They finished as minor premiers in Division 1 last year. They went out in straight sets. Unfortunately, 4 or 5 goals can't win you a final on Bayswater Oval, and the Norsemen showed that. I've spoken to Dennis Knight as well. He's going to adopt a much more offensive game plan. Look for the Norsemen to hit the scoreboard hard, play a much more attacking brand of football, and I reckon they can do it in round 1 against a Scoresby team that's going to be a completely new-look Scoresby outfit. Of the 21 players that played in the finals for Scoresby last year, by my last count, 16 of them are no longer in the Magpie black and white stripes this year. That's huge. It's going to be a completely different look side. Sean Kavanagh has been focused on developing youth. He's been the successful coach of their under-19s, winning 2 flags at that level over the last couple of years. And it's a natural progression because these are the kids he's going to be coaching in the Scoresby seniors. Having said all of that, though, their top half a dozen at Scoresby are still in the best in the competition up there with them. Guys like Adam Parker, Luke Van Reenen, Sean Cross, Brendan Legg, Jared Major. These sort of guys are fantastic players. They're going to really need to step up and be leaders at their football club and show the way to a very young on-ball brigade and a young group of kids coming through for the Scoresby side. They're not going to be good enough to beat Norwood in round 1. The Norsemen for mine.
Norsemen for mine as well, Frosty. They're set for a big year at Norwood, and I think they'll make a bit of a statement against the Magpies on Saturday afternoon. And the final game in Division 1, Rays, arguably the game of the round. South Croydon taking on Lilydale. Two sides who are probably in a similar position, maybe Lilydale just a little bit ahead. I know you saw the Falcons a couple of weeks ago. It'll be a tough contest against South Croydon, who always do quite well at Cheong Park.
Yeah, look, at South Croydon, they've had a pretty good build-up in their pre-season. I think they've won all their pre-season games, and they come up against Lilydale. I did see Lilydale 2 weeks ago against Bayswater in the night game, and it's a different Lilydale side, I feel, this year. They're going to run the ball into the forward line a lot more than what they did in previous years. Big Nathan O'Keefe, he's gone to the Yarra Valley, so their big key forward's gone. But look, they've just got some very good players there, and look, a huge pickup for them. I saw this guy the other night, and he's going to be a Division 1 player, this guy in the future. Ben Waitman, the nephew of ex-Tiger Dale Waitman. Look, this boy can play. He's only a small guy, but look, he comes from the VFL, but he can play football, so keep your eye on Ben Waitman. But look, you look at South Croydon. Look, they rely heavily on the Kings, the 2 Kings down there, and look, they are super players. They kick goals from nowhere. But look, I think that their problem is going to be talls, South Croydon. I think they're short on talls. They have been for a couple of years now, but they're playing at their home ground in this particular game. Look, they've asked for this game in round 1, I believe, against Lilydale. I don't know for what reason, but look, I think that Lilydale's going to have their measure. I think
Lilydale will have their measure as well. Even though it's at Cheong Park, a beautiful surface out there at Cheong Park, I think Lilydale will win. Well, gentlemen, that's it. We've gone through all 22 games for the first time in 2013. Gosh, it was good to go through and just talk some pure football after all the build-up. Just looking forward to seeing how the results go. 2 radio games this weekend. One tonight from 6:30pm right through to 10:30pm. It will be Bayswater against Mulgrave under lights there at Bayswater Oval. And, of course, Saturday afternoon, maybe a Division 3 grand final preview. Boronia hosting Ringwood out there at Tullamore Reserve. That'll be back to the usual time slot. EFL Game Day from 1 to 6 p.m. on 98.1 FM and, of course, streaming on efl.org.au.
And don't forget Sunday's game also, Ben.
Sunday's game, of course, Sylvan taking on Coldstream. That won't be broadcast, but we'll be all over it. The Eastern Football League website will be all over it over the Sunday, Frosty.
Before you head up there to the mountains of Sylvan Recreation Reserve, don't forget to tune in to 98.1 Radio Eastern though between 10 a.m. and 12 midday on Sunday for the first edition of EFL Sunday. We're going to speak to coaches from winning teams. We're going to speak to some players this year as well. We'll bring you all the results from across all 4 divisions. A must-have Sunday morning listening, EFL Sunday, brought to you by Akira Urgent Care.
A must listen to also, Ray, is The Huddle from 6 to 7 p.m. on a Wednesday night, which you've now joined and doing a very fine job on.
Well, that goes without saying, doesn't it?
Great work. Great work from the two Bairds on this edition of the Friday Preview, week 1 of season 2013. Frosty, looking forward to hearing your dulcet tones over the 98.1 FM airways over the weekend. Thanks for the joining us on the Friday Preview.
Oh, it's been a pleasure, mate. But as you get out to the game tonight or tomorrow, wherever you may be heading, don't forget to grab your edition of the Eastern Footballer. You'll see my top 10 in Frosty's top 50, plastered beautifully across a spread within the Eastern Footballer. You grab it at the gate, $2.50, the Eastern Footballer tonight or tomorrow.
My top 10, my top 50, and that's how it always will be, Ray. Thanks for joining us. Great first-up effort on the Friday Preview. Look forward to many more in the weeks to come.
Thanks, Ben. I've enjoyed it.
Thanks for joining us for the first edition of the Friday Preview this 2013 EFL season. I'm Ben Waterworth signing off, and as a wise man once said, stick a fork in us, we're done.